She was stopped at the reception desk of Prism Digital Solutions because of her ancient laptop and worn messenger bag that looked like they belonged in a technology museum. "Executive floor meetings don't allow random walk-ins," the receptionist said, eyes dismissing her like yesterday's technology. One arrogant developer snickered. "Are they letting in the IT help desk now?" Maya said nothing. She just pulled out her consultant badge and walked forward through the whispers, through the judgment, until her code demonstration shut them all the hell up. "Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches, you make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." Prism Digital Solutions was a cathedral of innovation, its glass and chrome headquarters rising from the Seattle skyline like a digital beacon. Inside, the atmosphere hummed with ambition and privilege. Every floor was a showcase for technological superiority, where executives, star developers, and venture capitalists moved in a carefully curated ecosystem. Polished concrete floors reflected blue light from wall-sized screens, displaying real-time analytics and stock prices. Conference rooms glowed with names that commanded respect: children of tech pioneers, Stanford PhDs, Silicon Valley veterans. Access to the executive floor wasn't just restricted, it was practically genetic, requiring connections that most coding bootcamp graduates could only dream about. The walls displayed framed magazine covers featuring the company's founders and breakthrough products, their expressions as calculated as their algorithms. Outside the main conference room, a digital check-in system separated the invited from the irrelevant. And today, Maya Chen stood on the wrong side, her faded blue cardigan and simple jeans a stark contrast to the premium athleisure and designer minimalism streaming past. At 29, Maya was an unassuming presence, her intelligence, subtle but profound. Her black hair fell in natural waves around her shoulders, occasionally tucked behind her ear when she concentrated. Her dark eyes, observant and thoughtful, missed nothing while revealing little. She carried an outdated laptop computer, its cover decorated with faded stickers from tech conferences from 5 years ago, tucked under her arm like an old friend. Maya had been coding since she was 12, taught by her mother, Dr. Chen, a brilliant but unheralded programmer who had pioneered database architecture before facing discrimination in the industry. After her mother's passing, Maya had promised to honor her legacy by building something revolutionary, but the crowd saw only a nobody with outdated technology, her presence an anomaly in their carefully filtered world. The executive assistant, Aidan Porter, with his precisely trimmed beard and practiced smile, blocked Maya's path at the reception desk. "This meeting is for invited specialists and investors," he said, his voice carrying professional disdain loud enough for nearby heads to turn. "Executive presentations require credentials, not whatever you're offering." He pointed at her laptop, eyes lingering on its worn edges and outdated model. A young developer in a $500 hoodie, Jackson Reed, heir to a venture capital empire, lounged against the reception desk, smirking. "They letting in the help desk support now?" he called out, triggering appreciative chuckles from his entourage. Maya's fingers brushed her consultant badge, issued directly by the company's retiring CTO through a connection her mother had maintained until her death. She held it out, her voice calm. "I'm expected." Aidan's professional smile faltered as the scanner beeped green, but he stepped aside, murmuring, "There must be a system error." The group parted, their whispers following Maya as she entered the executive floor. As Maya walked through the open concept workspace, the company's internal messaging system became a digital coliseum. Screens flickered with notifications, employees posting in real time, their comments a public execution. "Budget consultant," one read, zooming in on her worn laptop bag. "She's completely out of place." Another posted, shared by a product manager. Emma Tate stood up, her voice perfectly pitched to carry across the space. "Look at her thinking she can present to the board," she mocked, gesturing at Maya's simple outfit. "This is Prism, not some basement startup." The reactions multiplied, laughter becoming a weapon, comments flooding department channels. "Send her back downstairs." "Mistake," a junior developer shouted. "Bet she hacked the badge system." Maya's posture remained straight, her expression neutral, but the small photograph on her phone lock screen, her mother in a hospital bed giving a thumbs up, revealed the weight behind her mission today. The spectators' eyebrows raised, their curiosity at this coordinated dismissal a gathering storm, ready to witness what would happen next. The executive floor was a showcase of success, its meeting spaces wrapped around a central atrium under a glass ceiling. Digital displays tracked global metrics, and the low hum of ambient music mixed with muted conversations. Executives lounged on ergonomic furniture, sipping artisanal coffee, their devices displaying confidential market projections. Maya's outdated laptop drew stares like a flip phone at a product launch. A senior developer, Nathan Price, sprawled in a mid-century modern chair, his $4,000 custom Ultrabook balanced on his knees. "Even facilities staff gets badges now, huh?" he remarked, his voice carrying across the space. His circle, a collection of Stanford and MIT graduates, laughed, their eyes narrowing at Maya's worn messenger bag. "What's she going to do? Upgrade the vending machines?" one quipped, sliding a branded company water bottle across the floor in her direction. Maya stepped around it, her face composed, her silence a shield against their contempt. The company's VP of Engineering, Dr. Veronica Gray, approached from the executive suite, her tailored blazer and sleek ponytail projecting efficiency and authority. "This is highly unexpected," she said, her voice dripping with professional concern, pitched perfectly for the open floor to hear. "Prism presentations require enterprise-level hardware and solutions, not consumer-grade equipment." She gestured at Maya's laptop, her designer watch catching the light. "Your presence at this meeting could compromise our assessment standards. Perhaps an entry-level tech meetup would be more appropriate." The observers nodded in agreement, some exchanging knowing glances, their superiority a closed circuit. "We can reschedule if you'd prefer to come back better prepared," Gray added, her words a calculated dismissal. Maya's fingers tightened slightly on her laptop case, her dark eyes flickering with quiet determination, but her expression remained neutral. Her phone vibrated with a message, her aunt sending encouragement, as the VP's condescension echoed through the space, a challenge to Maya's right to be there. The audience's discomfort grew, their collective unease at this professionally coded hostility, a rising tide. In the main conference room, Emma Tate, principal software architect with a reputation for brutal code reviews and a closet full of designer minimalist outfits, adjusted her presentation remote, her highlighted hair falling in perfect geometric precision. She glanced at Maya, her smile tightening. "This is a product architecture review, not some community college demo day," she said, her voice precision-engineered to sound helpful while cutting deep, amplified by the room's acoustics. The company's internal channels buzzed with new messages. Who invited the intern? Security breach. The director of innovation, Reed Parker, a former gaming programmer with an expensive watch collection, stood nearby, his impatience evident. "Are you sure you understand the technical requirements of this meeting?" he asked, his tone suggesting the answer was obviously no. Maya met his gaze, her dark eyes steady. "I believe I can follow along," she said quietly, her words a gentle contrast to his pointed question. The room shifted, people positioning themselves to watch what they assumed would be a painful failure. The company's golden boy, Alexander West, was Silicon Valley royalty. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. A 30-year-old with casual confidence, angular features, and eyes that calculated everyone's value in an instant. His minimalist black clothing projected studied nonchalance, and his custom carbon fiber laptop, worth more than a decent car, displayed his latest development environment. His code review scores flashed on the main screen: 99, 8% efficiency, 99, 7% scalability, 99, 9% security, his metrics triggering approving nods. He turned, noticing Maya, and his smile was precision-crafted to wound. "If you can improve on my solution, I'll resign my project lead immediately," he said, his voice smooth and carrying just enough volume for everyone to hear. "But if you can't, you're out. Tech support." The room responded with polite laughter, their schadenfreude barely contained. Alexander moved closer, his coffee breath mingling with expensive cologne. No pressure, just standard industry metrics. Maya didn't respond beyond a small nod, her composure unbroken despite their anticipation of her humiliation. The viewers watched intently, their empathy for Maya growing, willing her to prove herself against the arrogance surrounding her. The mockery continued, unabated. As Maya sat up in a corner of the conference room, Jackson Reed wandered over, his designer hoodie a soft declaration of wealth. "That laptop's a fossil," he observed, loud enough for nearby conversations to pause. "Bet it can't even run our development environment." He dropped a wireless earbuds case near her feet, smirking. "Pick it up, help desk." The room tittered, smartphones discreetly capturing the moment, messages multiplying. By Prism standards. Emma adjusted her presentation materials, her voice razor-sharp. "You're embarrassing yourself, honey. Go back to whatever Tier 3 support desk you came from before you crash our server." Director Parker stepped closer, his tablet held like a shield. "This is a cutting-edge company," he said, his tone educational. "We don't have time for outdated hardware and techniques." Maya's movements were methodical, starting up her laptop, her face revealing nothing. The small photograph on her phone, her mother in her university office decades ago, briefly visible as she checked the time, a reminder of promises kept. The company's internal communication channels were flooded with messages. "Hey, vintage tech girl," one read with an unflattering screenshot of Maya's worn laptop. "She must be lost," another commented, shared by a marketing executive lounging near the coffee station. Nathan Price stood up, announcing to no one in particular, "Why is she even here? This is our development sprint, not some remedial coding workshop." The room hummed with agreement, their exclusivity a careful construction. A woman in a designer jumpsuit, Olivia Chen, no relation, let her leather portfolio fall dramatically, near Maya's feet, commenting, "Fix that compatibility issue, support desk." The leather folio slid across the polished concrete, stopping inches from Maya's worn sneakers, but Maya didn't flinch. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency as she opened her laptop, her dark eyes focused on the screen as it powered up, displaying an operating system interface that made several people exchange puzzled glances. It was neither standard Windows nor Mac OS. The observers' concern intensified, their annoyance at the collective behavior a simmering undercurrent ready to boil over. The insults became more technical as Maya connected her laptop to the presentation system. A senior systems architect, now working as a consultant, leaned toward Director Parker, his voice carrying just enough. "This is what happens when you let non-traditional backgrounds in," he muttered, nodding at Maya. "No proper development framework, no enterprise methodology." The room murmured agreement, their smartphones capturing Maya's quiet efficiency. Emma stood, her presentation materials ready, and announced, "You're disrupting our workflow with unvetted technology. Leave before you compromise our system integrity." Jackson Reed added, "Bet she's never even heard of our proprietary framework. Probably picked up that badge from the lost and found." The laughter rippled through the room, a practiced chorus, each comment a well-placed barb aimed at Maya's professional dignity. Her fingers moved across her keyboard, a brief terminal command, the only sign of her focus, but her face remained impassive, her silence a barrier against their judgment. Alexander took the presenter position first, his movements casual and confident, his laptop connecting seamlessly to the presentation system. The main screen displayed his code architecture, elegant, efficient, revolutionary. 99. 8% performance optimization. 99. 7% scalability. 99. 9% security score. His solution nearly flawless, his grouping of functions tight as a professional library. The room responded with appreciative nods, their expectations confirmed. "Good luck with your PowerPoint deck," Alexander called out, his smile perfectly calibrated, his eyes challenging her to try matching his standards. The internal messages multiplied. "She's finished. No way she matches West's architecture." Maya approached the presenter's podium, her outdated laptop now connected to the system. The room fell silent, smartphones angled, ready to document her inevitable technical failure. She typed a simple command, her body relaxed, her focus absolute. The massive screen displayed a terminal interface, then a command prompt with a single blinking cursor. The audience watched, their annoyance at her treatment transforming into nervous anticipation. First command entered, an elegant string of code that initialized a framework the room didn't recognize. The system chimed, indicators turning green, murmurs rippled through the space. "Customized kernel," Nathan whispered, his arms uncrossing. Maya didn't acknowledge the reaction. Second command, a deployment sequence unlike anything in their current architecture. The system's response was immediate, metrics appearing on auxiliary screens. Emma's presentation remote slipped, her composure cracking. Third command, a security protocol implementation so streamlined it barely registered in the system resources. The room's ambient music paused, an automated response to unexpected system behavior. "That's impossible," Jackson muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. Maya's face remained calm, her dark eyes fixed on her work. The observers leaned closer, their hearts quickening, sensing something extraordinary unfolding before them. Fourth command, an integration framework that connected disparate systems without typical lag. The analytics dashboard updated automatically, showing unprecedented efficiency metrics. Director Parker's tablet trembled slightly in his hand. Fifth command, a machine learning implementation that analyzed and optimized itself in real time. A designer's stylus clattered to the floor, dropped in shock. Sixth command, a scalability solution that made Alexander's approach look primitive by comparison. The room was cemetery quiet, every eye on Maya, her simple cardigan a strange contrast to the revolutionary code appearing on screen. Alexander's casual confidence evaporated, his jaw tensing, his eyes narrowing in disbelief. The internal channels exploded with questions. Who is she? What framework is that? Maya's fingers moved across her keyboard, her motions precise, almost reverent. The audience's irritation had completely transformed, their admiration growing. With each line of code, seventh command, a distributed computing approach that solved 3 known bottlenecks simultaneously. The performance metrics doubled, then tripled. Nathan stood abruptly, his expensive ultrabook forgotten. Eighth command, a security patch that closed vulnerabilities nobody had publicly identified yet. Emma's confident posture collapsed, her shoulders rounding. Ninth command, a user interface generation that adapted to individual usage patterns in real time. The room was motionless, conversations abandoned, judgments forgotten. The final command, a system integration that connected everything seamlessly, creating a perfect symphony of code that made their current architecture look like a student project. The system displayed a complete analysis, metrics off the charts, performance beyond their most optimistic projections. The ambient music resumed, a soft melody that seemed to acknowledge the historic moment. Maya closed her terminal window, her breathing steady, her dark eyes sweeping the silent room. The audience was stunned, their hearts racing. Her demonstration, a revelation that obliterated their previous assumptions. She turned, completely composed, and spoke for the first time at length, her voice soft but clear. "My mother wrote the original kernel that your entire company is built upon," she said, her words falling into the silence like stones into still water. "She sold it to your founders when I was 15, while she was already sick. While you were arguing about coffee brands in your dorm rooms, she was revolutionizing distributed computing." The crowd parted, their expressions transformed, their earlier mockery a weight they couldn't shed. Director Parker, the innovation leader, slowly placed his tablet on the conference table, his eyes showing recognition. He began to applaud, deliberate, and measured, the sound echoing in the perfect acoustics. One by one, others joined, the applause building, acknowledgement spreading through the room. Alexander stood frozen, his carefully constructed persona crumbling, his heart skipping as he noticed her small, knowing smile. Just a flicker, but enough to change everything. Alexander West remained rooted in place, his once perfect confidence shattered as Maya's metrics continued to display on the main screen. Her smile, subtle but genuine, caught him completely unprepared, stirring something he hadn't felt since his first coding competition. I completely misjudged," he said, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant, audible to everyone in the suddenly quiet room. "You're not just better, you're in another league entirely." The conference room's silence felt weighted, earlier dismissals now a collective embarrassment. Alexander's eyes, previously calculating value, now revealed genuine admiration as they followed Maya's calm presence, her outdated laptop, suddenly the most interesting technology in the room. The internal messaging system shifted tone dramatically. "West is speechless. She's the real deal." Director Parker nodded decisively, his voice resonating with newfound respect. "Mr. West, your architecture is no longer our benchmark. Step aside." Alexander's confident posture deflated, but his gaze lingered on Maya, her smile awakening something authentic beneath his carefully crafted image. The room responded with renewed applause, their collective mood elevating as Alexander's humbling and Maya's ascension intertwined, her triumph a lesson that rewrote their assumptions. Alexander's face flushed with rare emotion, his near-perfect scores now revealed as merely adequate. He'd dismissed her, challenged her, and been professionally outclassed before his peers and mentors. The internal channels captured his stunned expression, messages flooding company-wide. "She just reinvented our entire architecture, Maya legend." He approached her, his voice quiet, almost reverential. "I was completely wrong," he said, his eyes searching hers. "What you just demonstrated is revolutionary." Maya nodded, her smile warming slightly, a genuine response that caught him off guard. The room observed this exchange, their silence respectful, a canvas for her victory. Director Parker approached, his voice gruff but sincere. "That was the most impressive system architecture I've seen in 20 years, he said. "Your mother's legacy clearly continues through you." Maya's expression softened, her promise fulfilled, her mission accomplished. The CEO, Eliza Martell, stepped forward from the back of the room, where she'd been observing unnoticed, her steel-gray hair framing sharp features, her voice commanding attention throughout the space. "Maya Chen has just demonstrated the future of Prism Digital Solutions," she announced, her words broadcasting across the company's communication channels. Her integration framework and optimization approach will become our new development standard. She turned to her leadership team, her gaze unyielding. Those who treated her with disrespect, Aiden, Dr. Gray, and others, will have their positions reviewed immediately. Excellence here depends on innovation, not appearances. The room tensed, the guilty shifting uncomfortably, their exclusivity suddenly a liability. Martel raised her hand, activating the main display. Maya Chen, Chief, Systems Architect. The job title appeared beside Maya's name, a position that hadn't existed until this moment. Maya stood confidently, her smile genuine now, briefly meeting Alexander's gaze, his heart racing at her unassuming brilliance. The company channels erupted, congratulations flooding in from departments worldwide. Maya Chen trending internally, as employees realized what they had witnessed. The observers' spirits lifted, Maya's victory a permanent imprint on the company's culture. The corporate hierarchy trembled in that moment. Jackson Reed retreated to the back of the room, his expensive hoodie no protection against the whispers. She completely owned him. Emma packed her presentation materials, her position as architecture lead suddenly precarious, her arrogance a distant memory. Nathan's boasts evaporated, his ultrabook untouched, his allies avoiding his gaze. The internal channels tracked record. Engagement, Maya Chen dominating all company discussions, her demonstration becoming instant corporate legend. The systems consultant who had questioned her background stood awkwardly, his face flushed, and offered a stiff apology that barely registered amid the continuing applause. Olivia Chen, who had dropped her portfolio, slipped out of the conference room, her designer jumpsuit no defense against her embarrassment. The company's elite developers were humbled, their exclusive club shattered by a woman with an outdated laptop and revolutionary vision. Alexander lingered after the others dispersed, his practiced confidence replaced by genuine curiosity. He approached Maya as she packed her ancient computer, his voice lacking its usual performative quality. "Can we discuss your distributed computing approach? I have so many questions." Maya's smile widened, her dark eyes meeting his with new warmth, and she nodded, accepting his professional respect as the beginning of something new. As the excitement settled, Alexander found himself walking beside Maya toward the coffee bar, his usual swagger replaced by attentive interest. "I've never seen architecture like that," he said quietly, his eyes focused on her with unusual sincerity. "You've changed how I think about system design." The room observed this transformation, their attention caught by his vulnerability, the company channels capturing their conversation. He's completely transfixed. Maya's dark eyes met his, her smile reaching them now, creating a connection that transcended their earlier confrontation. "Coffee's a good place to start," she said, her voice warm and genuine, a bridge between worlds. The company's leadership paused in their assessment, their respect for Maya now unquestioned, her architecture a new foundation for their future. Alexander's pulse quickened, her smile the moment everything changed, the beginning of something unexpected. The observers' satisfaction deepened, their hearts lifting as Maya's technical triumph sparked professional respect, and perhaps something more. Her victory, a legend sealed in elegantly crafted code. The development team updated their repository. Access, Maya's name now appearing at the top of the contributor list, a permanent reminder of their misplaced judgment. The room, once filled with dismissal, now hummed with admiration. Their phones lowered, their earlier mockery a bitter lesson. A junior programmer, previously silent throughout the ordeal, approached hesitantly, her voice sincere. "I was wrong to doubt you," she said, looking directly at Maya. "You're exactly what this company needs." Others nodded in agreement, their appreciation genuine, a wave of respect washing away their previous contempt. Maya's smile, modest but impactful, briefly caught Alexander's gaze again, his professional armor cracking as he recognized her quiet strength. The company channels captured the transformation, messages multiplying. She changed everything. Maya inspires. Even the system's consultant who had questioned her background offered genuine praise, his earlier words now forgotten. Maya stood composed, her simple cardigan and outdated laptop now symbols of authentic innovation, her triumph reshaping the company's culture. The observers felt a sense of justice, their frustration transformed into admiration, Maya's brilliance a beacon for all who had been underestimated. The company's employees rallied around her name, their perspective transformed by her demonstration. Her victory, a reminder that innovation comes from unexpected places. 6 months later, Maya led the company's architecture team with Alexander as her deputy. Their professional partnership blossomed from that first coffee conversation, built on mutual respect and shared vision. Alexander, once defined by appearance and connections, learned to value substance over status. Excellence earned, not inherited. A year later, they launched a revolutionary platform together, transforming the industry with Maya's mother's principles at its core. The company's new headquarters featured a development lab named after Dr. Chen, Maya's mother, its entrance displaying her original kernel code. Prism Digital Solutions was no longer defined by exclusivity or appearance. It was transformed by a woman with an outdated laptop who had silenced them all with elegant, perfect code that changed everything. Maya Chen didn't need their validation. She was the architect who rebuilt their foundation. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this. The boardroom fell into expectant silence as Alexander connected his custom carbon fiber laptop to the presentation system. The wall-sized screens illuminated with his operating system's sleek interface, drawing appreciative murmurs from the executives lining the polished conference table. He moved with practiced confidence, his minimalist black clothing a carefully calculated statement against the flashy tech bro aesthetic while still signaling his elite status. Today, I'll be demonstrating the new architecture for Project Nexus, he announced, his voice carrying that particular Silicon Valley cadence that suggested he'd given TED Talks about disruption. Director Parker nodded approvingly, his expensive watch catching the light as he leaned forward. The room's ambient lighting adjusted automatically, dimming to highlight the presentation screens. Alexander's fingers flew across his keyboard with theatrical precision. The main display filled with elegant code structures, metrics appearing on side monitors in real time. As you can see, we've achieved 99.8% performance optimization, he explained, gesturing to a particularly complex section. The system adapts to usage patterns with unprecedented efficiency. Emma Tate nodded appreciatively, her designer glasses reflecting the screen's blue glow. Incredible improvement over last quarter's benchmark, she noted, loud enough for the CEO to hear her endorsement. The metrics continued scrolling. 99, 7% scalability, 99, 9% security score, each number reinforcing Alexander's reputation as Prism's technical savior. A simulation launched, showing the system handling millions of concurrent operations with minimal resource consumption. The executives exchanged impressed glances, several tapping notes on their tablets. CEO Eliza Martell's expression remained neutral, but she gave a slight nod of approval. The implementation will require minimal downtime, Alexander concluded, his smile confident as applause rippled around the table. Any questions before we proceed to next steps? His eyes deliberately avoided Maya's corner, where she sat quietly. With her ancient laptop balanced on her knees, Dr. Veronica Gray gestured toward Maya with perfectly manicured fingers. Perhaps our consultant would like to offer feedback before we continue. Her tone made consultant sound like intruder, drawing subtle smirks from several team members. The room's attention shifted to Maya, anticipation of embarrassment hanging in the air. Director Parker cleared his throat. "Yes, Ms. Chen, was it? Any thoughts on Alexander's architecture?" His voice carried professional courtesy, but his eyes revealed his expectation of hearing nothing valuable. The room waited, smartphones angling discreetly to capture what many expected would be an awkward technical fumbling. Maya closed her laptop and approached the presenter's podium with calm deliberation. Her movements lacked Alexander's performative quality, but carried a quiet sureness that caused several executives to straighten in their chairs. She placed her outdated computer beside Alexander's sleek machine. The contrast almost comical, like parking a vintage bicycle next to a Ferrari. "May I?" she asked softly, gesturing to the presentation system. Alexander stepped back with exaggerated politeness, his smile tightening. "By all means," he replied, voice pitched to carry, "though our system might struggle with legacy hardware." The expected chuckles followed, but died quickly as Maya connected her laptop without hesitation. The screen flickered momentarily, then displayed an unfamiliar interface. Minimal, elegant, with command structures that made several senior developers lean forward with sudden interest. CEO Martel's eyes narrowed slightly, her attention sharpening. "The architecture Mr. West presented is certainly impressive," Maya began, her voice quiet but clear. "However, I'd like to demonstrate an alternative approach." Her fingers moved across her keyboard without flourish, entering commands with efficient precision. A terminal window opened, displaying a programming language that made Nathan Price mutter, "Is that even publicly available?" Maya didn't acknowledge the comment, continuing to type as the room watched with growing curiosity. Her first command executed, initializing a framework unlike anything in their current architecture. The system responded instantly, performance metrics appearing on auxiliary screens. The numbers started at Alexander's impressive baselines, then began to climb steadily higher. "This is a distributed computing approach based on quantum-inspired algorithms," Maya explained, her focus unwavering as she entered a second command sequence. The simulation that Alexander had demonstrated now reappeared, but running at double the processing speed with half the resource utilization. Emma's professional composure cracked slightly, her mouth opening in surprise before she caught herself. "That's not possible with current architecture constraints," she stated, but her voice lacked conviction as the metrics continued climbing. Maya entered a third command, implementing a security protocol that made Alexander's approach look like primitive encryption. The system's security score recalculated, jumping to 98%. Jackson Reed abandoned his casual lounging position, sitting upright with sudden unpracticed attention. The approach uses a dynamic mesh network that self-heals and adapts to potential security threats, Maya explained, her words technical but clear. It identifies vulnerabilities through pattern recognition before they can be exploited. Director Parker's expression transformed from polite disinterest to intense focus. "That's theoretical technology," he said, tablet forgotten in his hands. "Nobody has successfully implemented that at enterprise scale." Maya didn't respond directly, instead entering a fourth command that integrated disparate system components without the typical connection overhead. The analytics dashboard updated in real time, showing efficiency metrics that exceeded their quarterly targets by 300%. Alexander's confident posture stiffened, his eyes narrowing as he watched his achievement being systematically overshadowed. The room's atmosphere shifted perceptibly. Whispered comments died away, replaced by focused attention. Olivia Chen straightened her designer jumpsuit and leaned forward, stylus poised but motionless above her tablet. Nathan Price abandoned all pretense of casual disinterest, moving closer to get a better view of Maya's code. Maya's fifth command implemented a machine learning algorithm that analyzed and optimized itself without human intervention. The simulation now showed the system predicting usage patterns and adjusting resources proactively rather than reactively. A visualization displayed this adaptation in real time, the elegant solution causing Dr. Gray to remove her glasses in disbelief. The system essentially evolves, Maya explained, her voice still even, without a trace of triumph or showmanship. It learns from its own performance, creating efficiency pathways that wouldn't be obvious to human programmers. Emma's presentation remote clattered to the table as she stood for a better view. That would require a completely different kernel architecture than what we're using, she said, her voice a mixture of disbelief and dawning realization. Maya nodded once, continuing to type. Yes, it would, she confirmed without elaboration. Her sixth command displayed the underlying kernel structure, elegant, revolutionary, and strangely familiar to those who had studied the company's earliest technical documentation. CEO Martel's expression changed subtly, recognition flickering across her features. She leaned forward, her attention now completely focused on Maya's demonstration. Maya entered her seventh command, implementing a distributed computing approach that solved multiple known bottlenecks simultaneously. The system's performance metrics doubled again, then tripled, approaching theoretical limits that computer science textbooks claimed were unattainable with current technology. Jackson Reed abandoned his expensive hoodie on his chair as he moved closer to the screens. That's impossible, he stated flatly, but his tone carried wonder rather than denial. You can't achieve that level of optimization without reimagining the fundamental architecture, Maya completed his thought, her hands steady as she continued typing. Her eighth command implemented a security patch that closed vulnerabilities the company hadn't yet identified, but which appeared in their threat assessment forecast for the next quarter. Alexander's carefully constructed professional demeanor crumbled visibly. He stepped closer to Maya's screen, his competitive instinct overwhelmed by genuine technical curiosity. How are you achieving that throughput with legacy hardware? He asked, his voice stripped of its performative quality. Maya's expression remained focused as she implemented her ninth command, a user interface generation system that adapted to individual usage patterns in real time. The demonstration now showed interfaces morphing to match user behavior, creating perfect efficiency between human and machine interaction. Hardware limitations can be overcome with sufficiently elegant code, she answered simply, her words falling into the silent room like stones into still water. The ambient lighting had adjusted again, highlighting the main screen where Maya's metrics continued to redefine what the company had believed possible. For her final command, Maya entered a system integration that connected everything seamlessly: security, performance, scalability, and user experience, creating a perfect symphony of code that made Alexander's revolutionary architecture look like a promising beta test. The system displayed a complete analysis, metrics far beyond their most optimistic projections. Performance exceeded theoretical limits by 27%. Scalability approached infinite adaptability. Security created prediction models that identified threats before they formed. The room was absolutely silent now, earlier judgments forgotten in the face of undeniable brilliance. Maya closed her terminal window with a simple keyboard command, stepping back from the podium. The quiet that followed was profound, broken only by the soft, ambient music that automatically resumed when no one spoke for 30 seconds. CEO Martel was the first to break the silence. "Ms. Chen," she said, her voice carefully controlled, "that kernel architecture looks remarkably similar to our foundation code, the original Lin architecture that this company was built upon." Maya nodded once, her dark eyes steady. "It should," she replied. "My mother designed it." The simple statement landed with seismic impact. Several executives exchanged startled glances, pieces falling into place with sudden clarity. "Dr. Chen was your mother?" Director Parker asked. His earlier dismissiveness completely evaporated. "Yes," Maya confirmed. "She wrote the original kernel that your entire company is built upon. She sold it to your founders when I was 15, while she was already sick with the cancer that would take her life 2 years later." Her voice remained even, but something in her eyes flashed with quiet intensity. "While you were arguing about coffee brands in your dorm rooms, she was revolutionizing distributed computing." The room absorbed this revelation with stunned silence. Alexander stared at Maya with newfound understanding, seeing beyond her simple clothing and outdated laptop to the legacy she carried. "What you've just demonstrated," CEO Martel said carefully, "is essentially quantum mesh architecture. It's been theoretical for years, but nobody has successfully implemented it. My mother completed the theoretical framework before she died," Maya explained. "I've spent the last 7 years building it, testing it, perfecting it." She gestured to her ancient laptop. "This was her computer. I use it because it contains her original notes and code fragments. The hardware is outdated, but what's inside it isn't." Nathan Price shook his head slowly, professional jealousy transforming into genuine respect. "You're running quantum-inspired algorithms on decade-old hardware? That's revolutionary," Emma completed his thought, her earlier mockery forgotten as professional awe took its place. The internal communication channels that had earlier been filled with mockery now exploded with questions, technical observations, and expressions of disbelief. The company's developers, watching the live stream from their workstations, flooded the system with messages. "Who is she? What framework is that? How is this possible?" Director Parker placed his tablet carefully on the conference table, his expression serious. "Ms. Chen, what you've demonstrated today doesn't just improve our current architecture, it makes it obsolete." He looked around at his team. "We're looking at a complete rebuild of our foundational systems." Maya nodded again. "Yes, the transition would take approximately 6 months, but the performance gains would be exponential." She spoke matter-of-factly, without boasting or exaggeration. "Your current system is reaching its theoretical limits. This approach removes those limitations entirely." Alexander stepped forward, his usual calculated charm replaced by genuine professional interest. "The resource allocation balancing you demonstrated," he said, gesturing to one of the auxiliary screens. "How are you achieving that without dedicated parallel processors?" "The algorithm creates virtual processing environments that distribute computational load across available resources," Maya explained, her voice warming slightly as she engaged with the technical question. "It essentially tricks the system into thinking it has more processing power than it actually does." For the first time, a small smile touched her lips as she discussed the technical details. Alexander found himself responding to that smile. With unexpected warmth, his competitive nature temporarily sidelined by genuine admiration for her brilliance. The room's energy transformed completely. The same people who had dismissed Maya minutes earlier now leaned forward, asking technical questions, engaging with her ideas, seeing her for the first time as what she truly was, a visionary architect whose work would define the next decade of their industry. CEO Martel raised her hand, silencing the growing technical discussion. "Ms. Chen," she said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority, "why are you here today? You clearly don't need Prism Digital's validation or resources." The question hung in the air, direct and uncompromising. Maya met the CEO's gaze directly. "My mother believed in what this company could become," she answered simply. "Before she died, she made me promise to bring her final work back here when it was ready." Maya gestured to the metric still displayed on the main screen. "It's ready, now." Martel nodded slowly, understanding passing between the two women. "And what would you expect in return for this architecture?" "Proper credit," Maya replied without hesitation. "My mother's name on it, an implementation that maintains the ethical guidelines she built into the original framework." The CEO's expression shifted subtly. "Not financial compensation? This architecture would be worth billions." Maya's smile returned, small but genuine. "I have other priorities than money, Ms. Martel." Something in her quiet confidence commanded respect from every person in the room. One by one, they began to see beyond her simple appearance to the extraordinary mind behind it. The woman they had dismissed as irrelevant, mocked for her outdated technology and simple clothing, now stood revealed as the architect of their future. Director Parker was the first to respond, rising from his chair and beginning to applaud. The sound echoed in the perfect acoustics of the boardroom, solitary at first, then joined by others until it filled the space. Maya accepted their acknowledgement with quiet dignity, her expression remaining composed. Alexander found himself clapping with genuine admiration, all thoughts of competition forgotten. He had never encountered anyone who approached technology with such pure brilliance, unconcerned with status or recognition. His carefully constructed professional persona felt suddenly hollow compared to her authentic expertise. As the applause faded, CEO Martel stood. "I believe we have some apologies to make," she said, her voice carrying the unmistakable tone of a leader who expected to be obeyed. Starting with how Ms. Chen was treated upon arrival today. Aidan Porter, the executive assistant who had blocked Maya's entrance, flushed with embarrassment. "I deeply apologize for my unprofessional behavior," he said, unable to meet her eyes. Similar murmurs of apology came from around the room, from people suddenly recognizing the pettiness of their earlier judgment. Maya acknowledged their words with a simple nod, neither dwelling on the offense nor dismissing it entirely. Her focus remained on the work, not the social dynamics surrounding it. Alexander West remained rooted in place, his once perfect confidence shattered as Maya's metrics continued to display on the main screen. Her smile, subtle but genuine, caught him completely unprepared, stirring something he hadn't felt since his first coding competition. I completely misjudged," he said, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant, audible to everyone in the suddenly quiet room. "You're not just better, you're in another league entirely." The conference room's silence felt weighted, earlier dismissals now a collective embarrassment. Alexander's eyes, previously calculating value, now revealed genuine admiration as they followed Maya's calm presence, her outdated laptop suddenly the most interesting technology in the room. The internal messaging system shifted tone dramatically. West is speechless. "She's the real deal." Director Parker nodded decisively, his voice resonating with newfound respect. "Mr. West, your architecture is no longer our benchmark. Step aside." Alexander's confident posture deflated, but his gaze lingered on Maya, her smile awakening something authentic beneath his carefully crafted image. The room responded with renewed applause, their collective mood elevating as Alexander's humbling and Maya's ascension intertwined, her triumph a lesson that rewrote their assumptions. Alexander's face flushed with rare emotion, his near-perfect scores now revealed as merely adequate. He'd dismissed her, challenged her, and been professionally outclassed before his peers and mentors. The internal channels captured his stunned expression, messages flooding company-wide. "She just reinvented our entire architecture. Maya legend." He approached her, his voice quiet, almost reverential. "I was completely wrong," he said, his eyes searching hers. "What you just demonstrated is revolutionary." Maya nodded, her smile warming slightly, a genuine response that caught him off guard. The room observed this exchange, their silence respectful, a canvas for her victory. Director Parker approached, his voice gruff but sincere. "That was the most impressive system architecture I've seen in 20 years, he said. "Your mother's legacy clearly continues through you." Maya's expression softened, her promise fulfilled, her mission accomplished. The CEO, Eliza Martell, stepped forward, her steel-gray hair framing sharp features, her voice commanding attention throughout the space. "Maya Chen has just demonstrated the future of Prism Digital Solutions," she announced, her words broadcasting across the company's communication channels. "Her integration framework and optimization approach will become our new development standard." She turned to her leadership team, her gaze unyielding. Those who treated her with disrespect, Aiden, Dr. Gray, and others, will have their positions reviewed immediately. Excellence here depends on innovation, not appearances. The room tensed, the guilty shifting uncomfortably, their exclusivity suddenly a liability. Martell raised her hand, activating the main display. Maya Chen, Chief Systems Architect. The job title appeared beside Maya's name, a position that hadn't existed until this moment. "Ms. Chen," the CEO continued, "if you're willing, I'd like to offer you your mother's rightful place in this company, leading our architectural vision and implementation, with full creative control and ethical oversight." The offer hung in the air, sincere and substantial. Maya considered it briefly, her eyes moving to the small photograph on her phone screen. Her mother in her university office, smiling with the quiet confidence of someone who knew her work would outlive her. "I would be honored," Maya replied simply. The room exhaled collectively, tension releasing as the future of the company crystallized in that moment of acceptance. The corporate hierarchy trembled in that moment. Jackson Reed retreated to the back of the room, his expensive hoodie no protection against the whispers. She completely owned him. Emma packed her presentation materials, her position as architecture lead suddenly precarious, her arrogance a distant memory. Nathan's boasts evaporated, his ultrabook untouched, his allies avoiding his gaze. The internal channels tracked record, engagement, as Maya Chen dominating all company discussions, her demonstration becoming instant corporate legend. The systems consultant who had questioned her background stood awkwardly, his face flushed, and offered a stiff apology that barely registered amid the continuing conversation. Olivia Chen, who had dropped her portfolio, slipped out of the conference room, her designer jumpsuit no defense against her embarrassment. The company's elite developers were humbled, their exclusive club shattered by a woman with an outdated laptop and revolutionary vision. As the meeting adjourned, the room buzzed with new energy. Teams began forming spontaneously around Maya's architecture, developers who had never spoken to each other, now collaborating with excitement. The corporate structure reorganizing itself organically around this new gravitational center. Alexander lingered as others filed out, watching Maya close her ancient laptop with careful hands. The machine that he had mockingly called a fossil now recognized for what it truly was, a vessel containing computational theory that would define the industry's next decade. "Your mother's computer," he said quietly, nodding toward the laptop. "You've kept it all these years." Maya traced the faded stickers on its cover, her expression softening. "It's where it all began," she replied. "She wrote the first lines of the quantum mesh theory on this machine while she was undergoing chemotherapy, said it gave her something to focus on besides the pain. The personal detail, offered without performance or manipulation, touched something in Alexander that his carefully curated professional relationships never had. The genuine connection to her work, the human story behind the revolutionary code, made his own career suddenly seem hollow and performative. "I'd like to understand your approach better," he said, surprising himself with his sincerity, "not to compete or copy it, but to learn from it. If you're willing to teach." Maya studied him for a moment, her dark eyes assessing his sudden authenticity. "Coffee's a good place to start," she said finally, her voice warming. "I could use someone who understands the current architecture to help with integration planning." Alexander felt something shift inside him. Professional respect blossoming into genuine admiration, possibly something more. Her brilliant mind, her quiet dignity in the face of mockery, her dedication to her mother's legacy, all of it drew him toward her with unexpected force. As they walked together toward the building's coffee bar, Alexander noticed how employees, who had ignored Maya's entrance, now watched her pass with newfound respect, their expressions a mixture of awe and embarrassment. Her revolution had taken less than an hour to completely transform the company's hierarchy. "I have 1,000 questions about your mesh network implementation," he admitted as they reached the coffee station. "The adaptive latency approach alone could revolutionize our mobile architecture." Maya's smile widened slightly, her professional reserve warming as she detected his genuine interest. "My mother would have liked that you noticed that particular feature," she said. "It was one of the last components she designed before she died." As they settled at a quiet table, technical discussion flowing between them with increasing enthusiasm, the rest of the company adjusted to its new reality. Developers who had dismissed Maya were now studying her demonstration recordings. Marketing teams were hurriedly revising quarterly projections based on the new architecture's capabilities. And HR was drafting a company-wide message about professional conduct and unconscious bias. In the executive suite, CEO Martel was already on a call with the board of directors. "Yes, we've just witnessed something extraordinary," she was saying, her tone leaving no room for debate. "Dr. Lin Chen's daughter has brought us what amounts to a complete technological revolution. We're implementing immediately with her in charge." She paused, listening briefly before cutting in again. "No, this isn't negotiable. You'll understand when you see the demonstration." Back at the coffee bar, Alexander and Maya were deep in technical conversation, her quiet brilliance and his strategic thinking already forming an unexpected synergy. Employees passing by saw only two people hunched over laptop screens, coffee cooling beside them, completely absorbed in their shared vision. What they couldn't see was the revolution unfolding in real time, not just in Prism's technology, but in its culture. The woman they had mocked for her outdated laptop was now rewriting their future, her mother's legacy thriving in unexpected ways. Maya's fingers flew across her keyboard, demonstrating a particularly elegant solution to a problem Alexander had raised. Her faded cardigan and simple jeans no longer registered as inappropriate or out of place. They had become, in the span of a single morning, symbols of authentic innovation unconcerned with appearance or status. As word spread throughout the building, developers began finding excuses to walk past their table, hoping to catch a glimpse of the woman who had just rewritten their understanding of what was possible. The revolution had begun with 10 perfect commands, but it wouldn't end there. It would transform everything, their technology, their culture, their future, all because of a simple woman with an outdated laptop who had silenced them with elegant, perfect code. 3 weeks after Maya's revolutionary demonstration, Prism Digital Solutions had transformed beyond recognition. The 44th floor, once an exclusive sanctuary for the company elite, now hummed with democratic energy. Developers who had never been permitted past the security checkpoint now worked alongside executives, hierarchies dissolving in service of implementation. Maya's mother's quantum mesh architecture required a complete company restructuring, not just technically, but culturally. The massive glass conference room where Maya had first been mocked had been converted into an open collaboration space. Its walls now displayed the evolution of the Lin architecture from Dr. Chen's original diagrams to Maya's revolutionary enhancements. Teams gathered beneath these visual histories, finding inspiration in the elegant computational theory that many had dismissed as impossible just weeks before. Maya moved through this new landscape with quiet authority, her simple wardrobe unchanged despite her elevated position. She had declined the corner office typically reserved for executives, instead setting up in a central workspace where any developer could approach with questions. Her mother's ancient laptop remained her primary machine, now treated with reverent respect by the same people who had once sneered at its outdated casing. Alexander West had undergone perhaps the most dramatic transformation. Gone was the calculated persona and minimalist designer wardrobe. He arrived each morning in simple jeans and solid-colored shirts, his focus entirely on the work rather than the impression he created. As Maya's deputy and integration lead, he had abandoned competition in favor of collaboration, finding unexpected fulfillment in supporting her vision rather than promoting his own. The migration team has completed the database transition, he reported, sliding into a chair beside Maya's workstation. We're seeing performance improvements of 412% compared to the old architecture. His excitement was genuine, without a trace of the polished performance that had once defined his professional interactions. Maya nodded, her fingers continuing to type as complex visualizations formed on her screen. The adaptive optimization is working better than expected, she replied, a small smile touching her lips. The system is discovering efficiencies we hadn't anticipated. Alexander leaned closer, studying the patterns with unguarded fascination. It's like watching evolution happen in real time, he murmured. Maya turned slightly, her dark eyes meeting, his with newfound warmth. In 3 weeks of intense collaboration, something unexpected had grown between them. A connection built on mutual respect and shared purpose that neither had experienced before. Across the floor, Jackson Reed approached a junior developer who had submitted brilliant optimization code the previous day. This same junior developer, Zoe Patel, had been reduced to tears by Jackson's public criticism a month earlier. Now, he pulled up a chair beside her workstation. Your distributed cache implementation was exactly what we needed, he said, his voice lacking its former performative volume. Would you walk me through how you approach the memory allocation? The genuine question, asked without condescension, illustrated how completely the company culture had transformed. Zoe straightened, surprised but pleased. Of course, she replied, pulling up her code. I was inspired by something in Maya's approach that made me think about resource allocation differently. As they began discussing technical details, the hierarchy that would have made such a conversation impossible weeks ago had vanished completely. Emma Tate entered the floor, her designer clothing replaced by practical comfort, her tablet under her arm. She had surrendered her architectural leadership gracefully once she understood the brilliance of Maya's approach, finding unexpected satisfaction in learning rather than leading. She caught Maya's eye across the workspace and raised her coffee cup in friendly acknowledgement. The transformation extended beyond the technical teams. CEO Eliza Martell had implemented sweeping cultural changes throughout the company, dismantling the exclusionary practices that had become entrenched over years of status-driven hiring. The company's internal communication system, once a weapon for mockery, now featured recognition channels where contributions were celebrated regardless of title or tenure. Director Parker approached Maya's workspace, his traditional suit abandoned in favor of business casual attire. The board has unanimously approved the full implementation timeline, he announced, satisfaction evident in his voice. And they've agreed to rename our core architecture the Lin Framework in honor of your mother. Maya's typing paused, genuine emotion flickering across her features. "Thank you," she said simply. That would have meant everything to her. Parker nodded, understanding the significance. "We're also establishing a scholarship program in her name for underrepresented groups in computer science. Your mother's legacy deserves to inspire the next generation." As he walked away, Alexander noticed the subtle shine in Maya's eyes. Without thinking, he placed his hand over hers on the keyboard, a brief, supportive touch that would have been unimaginable in the hierarchical environment that had existed before. Maya didn't pull away, instead turning her palm to briefly squeeze his fingers in acknowledgement. The moment was interrupted by an alert on Alexander's tablet. "The live demo for investors begins in 30 minutes, he reminded her. "Are you ready to show them what we've built?" Maya nodded, closing several windows on her screen. "The visualization module is complete. They'll be able to see the architecture adapting in real time." She reached for her mother's laptop, its casing worn but cherished. "I want to show them where it all began." The demonstration that followed in the company's renovated presentation space marked the public unveiling of technology that would redefine the industry. Investors and industry analysts watched in stunned silence as Maya, standing confidently beside her outdated laptop, revealed computational approaches that most had considered theoretical impossibilities. "What you're witnessing is the Lin quantum mesh architecture," she explained, her quiet voice carrying authority that commanded complete attention. "Conceived by Dr. Chen and completed through our collaborative implementation at Prism Digital." She gestured to the team surrounding her, Alexander, Emma, Jackson, and dozens of others who had contributed to the implementation. "This isn't just a technical revolution. It's a new approach to how we build and evolve systems." The visualization behind her showed the architecture responding to simulated user behavior, adapting and evolving without human intervention. Performance metrics climbed steadily higher as the system discovered optimizations that no human programmer had anticipated. The audience's expressions shifted from skepticism to wonder as they recognized they were witnessing computational history being made. "This will fundamentally change how we approach distributed computing," an industry analyst murmured, furiously taking notes on his tablet. "It's at least 5 years ahead of anything else in development." CEO Martel stepped forward as Maya concluded her presentation. "What makes the Lin architecture truly revolutionary isn't just its technical brilliance," she said, her voice carrying the weight of hard-earned wisdom. "It's the reminder that innovation doesn't always wear the face. We expect or come from where we anticipate." She gestured toward Maya, standing unassumingly beside her mother's laptop. "We nearly missed this breakthrough because we were looking at appearances rather than substance." The company's stock price doubled by market close that day. Industry publications released special editions focused exclusively on the Lin architecture and its implications. Competitors scrambled to understand the technological leap that had suddenly made their own approaches obsolete. But within Prism Digital, the focus remained on implementation rather than celebration. "We should commemorate this properly," Alexander suggested, as he and Maya worked late into the evening, fine-tuning deployment protocols. "Your mother's vision deserves recognition beyond the technical community." Maya looked up, her dark eyes thoughtful. "She never cared about recognition," she replied. "She just wanted to build something that would last." Alexander nodded, understanding better now after weeks of working alongside Maya. "Like mother, like daughter," he observed with a small smile. "But some achievements deserve celebration, even if the creators don't seek the spotlight." 2 months later, Prism Digital hosted an unusual event. The company's headquarters opened its doors to students from local schools serving underprivileged Communities. Hundreds of young people, many from backgrounds traditionally underrepresented in technology, moved through interactive exhibits explaining the Lin architecture in accessible terms. Maya circulated among them, her simple presence inspiring in ways no carefully crafted corporate message could match. She knelt beside a young girl who was hesitantly attempting a coding challenge. "It looks scary at first," Maya said gently, "but try breaking it into smaller pieces." The girl nodded, her fingers gaining confidence as Maya patiently guided her through the logic. "My computer at home is really old," she confided, glancing up at Maya. "The other kids make fun of it." Maya smiled, genuine and warm. "My most important work was done on a laptop older than you are," she replied, nodding toward a display case where her mother's computer now rested when not in use. "It's not about the machine, it's about what you create with it." The girl's eyes widened with new understanding. Across the room, Alexander watched this interaction, his heart expanding with emotions he hadn't known himself capable of before meeting Maya. The calculated ambition that had driven his career now seemed hollow compared to the authentic purpose he'd discovered in supporting her vision. Later that evening, as the event wound down, he found Maya standing alone before the display honoring her mother. Dr. Lin Chen's portrait smiled kindly from the wall, surrounded by her original technical diagrams and the story of her contributions to computer science. "She would be proud," Alexander said quietly, moving to stand beside Maya, "not just of the technology, but of how you've transformed this company." Maya turned to him, her expression open in a way it hadn't been when they first met. "I think she would be most proud that her work is helping change who gets to participate in creating the future," she replied. "That matters more than any algorithm." Alexander nodded, understanding now what he couldn't have comprehended before. "I've been thinking about the next phase," he said, changing subjects with deliberate care. "The educational initiative you proposed, making these concepts accessible to students who don't have access to advanced technology." Maya's eyes brightened with interest. "The adaptive learning module?" "Yes, I think we could deploy it to schools by next quarter," he confirmed. "I've been working on the resource allocation." He hesitated, then added more personally, "I'd like to lead that project if you approve." Maya studied him, seeing how completely he had transformed from the image-conscious technologist who had once dismissed her based on appearances. "I think that's perfect," she said with genuine warmth. "You understand both worlds now." Their conversation was interrupted by CEO Martel approaching with an industry pioneer who had flown in specifically to meet Maya. As she turned to greet them, Alexander watched her with quiet admiration. In the space of a few months, she had revolutionized not just their technology, but their understanding of where brilliance could be found. 1 year after Maya first walked into Prism Digital with her outdated laptop, the company had been transformed beyond recognition. The Lin architecture had established new industry standards, with Maya's implementations considered the definitive approach to distributed computing. The exclusionary culture that had once defined the company had been replaced by a meritocracy that evaluated ideas rather than appearances. Maya and Alexander worked side by side, their professional partnership evolving into a personal connection built on mutual respect and shared purpose. His strategic vision complemented her technical brilliance, creating innovations neither could have achieved alone. The corner office that had once symbolized hierarchical success remained empty, a subtle reminder of how completely the company's values had changed. On the anniversary of her first demonstration, Maya brought a small potted plant to place beside her workstation, a tradition her mother had maintained to mark significant achievements. Alexander arrived early, placing a simple card beside her keyboard. 1 year of revolution, it read. Thank you for showing us what we couldn't see. When Maya discovered it, her smile carried the quiet satisfaction of promises kept and legacies honored. The woman who had been mocked for her outdated laptop had created the future, her mother's vision fulfilled in ways that transcended technology alone. The old barriers between innovation and recognition had fallen. The artificial boundaries of appearance and status had crumbled. All because one woman had refused to be defined by others' perceptions, carrying revolutionary code in an outdated laptop that changed everything. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.